Hello and welcome. We start with Sudan. Sudan has dragged the United Arab Emirates to the International Court of Justice, or the ICJ, for its complicity in genocide over its alleged support to paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or the RSF. Sudan at the World Court has alleged the RSF committed genocide, murder, rape, forcible displacement and other heinous acts in its nearly 2-year-long civil war with the army. Now, Khartoum contends that these atrocities have been fueled with the support of the UAE. It has now filed a case against the Gulf nation at the ICJ, which accuses it of complicity in the genocide on the Masalit community in Sudan's West Darfur region. Now, the Masalit, a non-Arab tribe, have reportedly been targeted in ethnically motivated attacks by the RSF and allied Arab militias. And Sudan alleges that the UAE has provided extensive facial, political and military support to the RSF. It is now asking for the court to impose emergency measures and to order the Emirates to prevent such genocidal acts. The UAE, which has repeatedly denied supporting the RSF, dismissed the case as a publicity stunt. It claims that Sudan's allegations lack any factual basis and vows to have the case thrown out. The ICJ, which is based in The Hague, is the principal judicial organ of the United Nations. Now, its rulings are legally binding, but the court has no power to enforce them. For example, it ordered Russia to halt its assault on Ukraine only a few weeks after the invasion. But the war still continues. Khartoum wants the court to act quickly to ensure that the urgent and fullest possible protection for the Sudanese civilians. The civil war broke out in April of 2023 between the Sudanese army led by Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and the paramilitary RSF led by Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo as a power struggle. Over 28,000 people have been killed as per the UN. But as per some estimates, the toll could be up to 150,000. Sudan's case at the ICJ comes as the RSF and allied political groups are in the process of setting up a parallel government to the army-aligned one, a move that has been rejected by Egypt, Saudi Arabia and Qatar. The conflict in Sudan has drawn in several foreign powers, but the role of the UAE has particularly come into the spotlight. Apart from Sudan, UN experts have said that the accusations that the UAE had funneled weapons to the RSF through Chad were credible. The US, under the previous Joe Biden administration, declared that the RSF was guilty of genocide in one of its final acts. It sanctioned the paramilitary's leader along with several of his Emirati arms dealers. Now, Abu Dhabi promised to stop arming the RSF after US lawmakers threatened to block its $1.2 billion arms deal. However, just days later, they accused the UAE of breaking its promise and still supplying the rebels. So despite its repeated refusal of backing the RSF, the UAE continues to face backlash. Will the ICJ case put pressure on Abu Dhabi? Now, for more on this, we have with us Moses Crispus Okello, who is a senior researcher at the Horn of Africa Security Program at the Institute for Security Studies, joining us live from Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you for being with us and welcome to First Post.
Thanks, Alison.
What are the key pieces of evidence that Sudan is presenting to the ICJ to support its accusations of the UAE's complicity in genocide through its alleged backing of the RSF?
Alison, as you have mentioned, Sudan has filed a case before the International Court of Justice alleging that the Rapid Support Forces, with the support of the United Arab Emirates, has committed a range of violations, especially around the El Janina area that's in West Darfur, during what has come to be known as the siege of Al Janeina. In Al Janeina, the allegations include destruction of public property, pillage, rape, and most importantly, questions of genocide. They allege thousands of women have been raped. They allege public buildings have been pillaged and ransacked. They allege murder of all kinds. But as you clearly say, these are merely allegations. It remains to the ICJ to determine whether, in fact, the allegations that are being raised by the government in Port Sudan now actually did take place, right? So they're merely allegations at this point in time. It's up to the court to give us clarity on what may have happened or not.
Right, Moses. And how might this case impact the broader geopolitical dynamics in the region, particularly the UAE's relationships with other African nations and, of course, its influence in the Horn of Africa?
This is an interesting case because the UAE's role in the conflict in Sudan has been said to be one of the most important things that are delaying a resolution of this conflict. So any finding that the UAE is in fact complicit in the protraction of this conflict is going to have reverberations around the continent. I am not quite sure that this is going to shift significantly the relationship between the UAE and other regional actors, but definitely UAE's actions from the point, assuming that the court finds in the affirmative, from that point on, the UAE will be, as it were, moving around with a monkey on its back. But this coming at a time when Sudan is caught up in a geopolitical fireball, you could say that probably the implications are going to be more moral than politically impactful.
Right, and on that, given the UAE's dismissal of the case as merely a publicity stunt, what are the potential legal and diplomatic consequences if the ICJ decides to proceed with the investigation?
At a legal level, proceeding with the investigation means there is a certain basis to believe that UAE is in fact supporting the RSF. And that's a belief that a lot of people have thought to be true, but have never had evidence of. So any a continuation of this case, whether or not the eventual findings are in the affirmative, is going to somewhat help Port Sudan's allegations to a certain extent. However, I do not think, given the world in which we live in now, that a legal finding will necessarily change the dynamics of the conflict. I mean, we see what just happened with the case brought by South Africa against Israel. There will be a little bit of noise here and there, but nothing really significantly shifting the issues on the ground. At a diplomatic level, once again, a little bit of a disapproval of UAE's action and perhaps under the table dealings, but nothing that would significantly shift the broader dynamics of the conflict, given especially now that Sudan is in fact going into a split in which the RSF controls one part of the country and the authorities in Port Sudan control the other. So if anything, you might see more of more division rather than cohesion as a result of this case.
Right. Thank you very much for being with us on Firstpost Africa.
Thanks, Alison.
Merci beaucoup. Hi. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Namaste, Mr. President.
Bharat Kelogon, Komeri Namaste.
How many people generally follow you in interviews?
Typically in a month, we have viewers up to 150 million. That's more than twice the population of France. And in the last 2 years, we had 3 billion viewers. So I say, Lohon, this is your chance to be famous. You're on Firstpost. One word to describe your equation with Prime Minister Modi.
Amitié.
And as India and France work together, are you creating a new era of non-alignment in the technology space?
India is a training superpower. 1 million engineers a year, more than all of Europe and the US combined. So we have that partnership. We have a partnership on the environment and the economy. We also have civilian nuclear programs. And that is something we've developed far beyond the France-India relationship. So we want to work together on AI.
And then comes China with its DeepSeek, creating models at a fraction of the cost. Did that innovation take you by surprise? Did that breakthrough make you sit up and think, what did the Chinese do and how?
But what did DeepSeek do? They took everything that was already available from the last AI model and then they recalibrated it.
So are you going to ban Chinese AI in France?
So we don't have this American approach of banning tech because of where it comes from.